Hi there, good afternoon. How are you all doing today? My name is Paul Troy, and I am the crime victim advocate for Jewish Family and Career Services. Jewish Family and Career Services is a local nonprofit here in Louisville, Kentucky that works with people from all across Jefferson County. Our senior services program helps any senior 60 and older in Jefferson County who needs assistance, whether they've been a victim of crime or not. We are funded through a combination of state and federal grant money, mostly through KIPTA. And we help with people 60 and older who've been victimized by crimes as they navigate the court system, as they work with the police department, as they reach out and seek protective orders in cases of domestic violence. And then we also assist with people going to court and help them with that process. About half the cases that we do involve domestic violence cases. Unlike intimate partner violence, though, about 3/4 of our cases involve family members, so children or grandchildren of the victim, as well as some intimate partner violence. The other half of our cases usually involve fraud or financial abuse, and that's what I'm here to talk about today is financial abuse and fraud. So one of the things that we want to talk about today is the different ways that we can help seniors protect themselves from digital scams. So you're going to learn a lot about a lot of new terms today, a lot of resources to help you teach seniors about how to protect themselves from scams. This is meant to be a way that you can take this information out to your communities and share it with the seniors that you work with to help keep them safe. And so I'm going to give you all a lot of tools that you can use and ways that you can talk about these things that make it easier to deal with some of the vernacular and jargon that some of this stuff is caught up in, and make it a little bit easier for the folks that you're working with to understand the different things that they're up against when it comes to this stuff. So let's get started. First of all, if anybody has any questions or concerns, just reach out. I can't see particularly well the people that are in the room. And so if you have questions, just speak up and say something. I may not be able to see you raising your hand if you do reach out, or if you do raise your hand, but I will do my best to respond whenever people do have questions. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this training in the first place. First of all, we want to talk about a little bit about why this is such a huge problem right now. Most of the statistics that I'm going to give you come from the current Federal Bureau of Investigation IC3 Elder Fraud Report, which is the internet crime reporting elder abuse report that's out right now. This is going to provide information from 2021. So it's going to have some post-pandemic information in it, but we're really just beginning to see the effect of the COVID pandemic on folks with this information. So some of it's not going to be the most up-to-date information out there. But as you can see, this problem has been growing pretty exponentially as we've been going for the past 5 years. We've seen a 74% increase over just the year 2020 in 2021. So that's almost double the number of losses that we've had. And again, a big part of that had to do with the COVID pandemic and the ways that scammers adapted their methods and techniques to take advantage of that technique. We see that the average victim loses about $18,000. And that's a huge amount of money for seniors who may be on a fixed income or who don't have additional money to spare. And of the seniors who've lost more than $100,000, there were 3,133 of those people in 2021 who lost over $100,000. So again, we're talking about pretty significant losses here. So why are seniors such attractive targets for these crimes? So first of all, let's talk about the demographic shift that's going on in our community. And that is, we are an aging population. The baby boomers of the 1960s are now at retirement age, and we are seeing those folks, huge increases in the numbers of people 65 and older, and those numbers are supposed to go up as we get towards 2050. You can see the way that curve really goes straight up when you hit about the year 2010. It just goes, almost vertically. So we're seeing a huge increase in the number of seniors out there in our population, which just means demographically there's more seniors out there. But also, seniors make attractive targets for a number of reasons that are specific to the fact that they're older. One of the reasons for that is that people who are 65 and older control about 83% of the nation's wealth. So it reminds me of the story of Willie Sutton, who's a famous bank robber from the 1930s. And so one time, Willie Sutton was asked by a reporter, "So Willie, why do you rob banks?" And the reason he gave, which seems really obvious, is because that's where the money is, right? Most of us have heard that story. But as this number tells us, 83% of the nation's wealth is held by people who are 65 and older. And so if you're going to target somebody for scams or fraud, you're probably not going to go after the college student who's living off of macaroni and cheese and ramen noodles every night. But instead, you're going to target somebody who's worked their entire life, who has saved, who owns their own home, has a retirement account, maybe an IRA or a pension fund. That's not to say that seniors have extra money laying around or anything like that, because we know that many seniors are on fixed income and that they can't afford any sort of loss whatsoever. But they tend to have more money than your average college student and more access to that money. And so that makes them attractive targets. In addition, seniors are more likely to answer the phone. I don't know about you all, but I'm 54 and I come from an age where when the phone rang at our house, we answered the phone when I was a kid. People didn't call your house unless they had a reason to call your house, right? There was none of this, just people calling up out of the blue, trying to sell you stuff. And so we always answered the phone. Even if they called during dinner, we answered the phone. And it's taken a real change in my mindset to get used to not answering the phone when it rings, of letting it go to voicemail. But I'm going to tell you that that's the safest thing that we can tell our seniors to do, is to not answer that phone. Is to break that lifelong habit of answering that call, because we know that seniors who receive at least one unwanted phone call per week are 3 times more likely to miss a meal that week than a senior who doesn't receive unwanted phone calls. And that's because unwanted phone calls are closely linked to financial abuse and fraud, and therefore seniors who are getting unwanted calls are more likely to be victims of financial abuse, and therefore more likely to be skipping meals. So answering those phones can lead to things as basic as food insecurity. In addition, seniors are more likely to live alone. And the Centers for Disease Control, which looks at things like financial abuse and scams, because it is a public health issue, believe it or not, the CDC looks at things like risk and protective factors, okay? They don't look at cause and effect. They look at what can we do to make ourselves safer, and what can we do what are we doing that's making ourselves more at risk? And so the number one risk factor for financial abuse and fraud is social isolation, okay? It means that people are more likely to answer the phone. It means that people are lonely or more likely to talk to those folks. It means that they're more likely to stay on the phone longer with somebody, even if they realize that it's a scam. One of the people that I've worked with recently, who's been taken for probably $20,000 in the past 10 years, and it's always small amounts at a time, and it's always the same scam. It's somebody calling saying that she's won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, and that she just needs to pay some fees, some taxes, whatever, to collect on the big prize. Now, I've talked to this woman numerous times about these calls, because every time I get a police report, I give her a call, and she's well aware that these are scams. She knows that they're scams, but the reason she talks to them is because she's lonely. And she says these are the only people that will spend time with her on the phone and will talk to her. And so that sense of social isolation is leading to this person speaking to to the scammers on the phone, to giving them money so that they continue to call, and leading ultimately to, again, this person having trouble paying their bills and making their rent. So this is a huge risk factor for financial abuse, which is the isolation that seniors often feel as they age. Many seniors may have physical or cognitive impairments, which again can lead to an increase in isolation. It can also make them more dependent upon the phone. So if you have a senior who's physically impaired and relies on the telephone for making arrangements for doctor's appointments, for paying their bills online, or for paying their bills by phone, all that sort of stuff. The telephone really is a lifeline. And so encouraging that person to just not answer the phone isn't exactly an effective strategy for helping them deal with financial abuse or fraud. And instead, maybe we need to talk to them about how to protect themselves if they are going to answer the phone. And then finally, seniors are often not as technologically sophisticated. And this is not anything to do with seniors themselves, but it has to do with the rapid pace at which our technology is changing. Okay, there was a time when you were able to trust your caller ID that showed up on your phone. And then spammers or scammers figured out that they could spoof the caller ID number and make it look like whoever they want is calling you. And so now if they want to pretend like it's the IRS calling, they can make it show up that it's the IRS calling. Caller ID spoofing wasn't a thing 10 years ago. Now it is. The same thing goes with email phishing attacks. Those things are becoming more and more sophisticated. The attacks are becoming more targeted. So instead of just a broad phishing attack where they just reach out to thousands of people every day, instead these are targeted attacks, or what they call spear phishing. And so they may know something about the person. Maybe they've garnered information from social media, and they've taken that information they've learned from social media, and they've used that then to make their scam seem a little bit more plausible or a little bit more believable. And so when you have a senior who's maybe just now dipping their toe into the world of social media, they may not realize all the different scammers that are out there willing to take advantage of their trust and take advantage of the information that they're putting up there on Facebook or Twitter. And so that lack of technological sophistication is something that we're all facing as the pace of technology advances. As rapid advancements increase, we're going to all be faced with this increasingly sophisticated technology. And so that's part of why we're talking about this as well, is to give seniors an idea of what's out there so that they can protect themselves. All right, so who are these scammers? So first of all, this is not the 30-year-old guy in his basement, in his mom's basement, calling people on his own. Okay, these are major multinational crime syndicates, often operating overseas. Okay, in 2016, the Department of Justice sentenced 21 people connected to an India-based call center that stole hundreds of millions of dollars. These call centers overseas operate 24 hours a day, depending upon which time zone they're calling to. And they'll have people that can speak a variety of languages willing to go to work at any given time. They operate from well-rehearsed scripts, and they use sophisticated technology to trick their victims. So in the same way that a telemarketer might have a script that they use where they can respond to everything that the person answering the call may say to them, they've got a response ready to go, a canned response ready to go. Well, these scammers have the same kind of thing going. And so if the person says, well, I can't really afford that right now, I don't have that much money in the bank, they've got an answer to that. And if they say they don't have access to the internet, the scammer has an answer to that. And if they say that they just spent all their money, well, the scammer's got an answer for that. And so they've got answers for all of these things. And so even though you may be the most sophisticated person financially that there is, you're up against teams of people who have technology on their side, and the odds are really stacked against you for fishing this out. Sometimes when I give these scam talks, people are kind of skeptical that these scammers work from their major multinational crime syndicates, or that they work from call centers overseas. So this is from Interpol's website. It's about an arrest in 2020 where there were 20,000 arrests in a year-long crackdown on phone and internet scams. And this is all around the world. And then these are pictures from one of the call centers over in India that is used to perpetrate these scams. And as you can see from this picture, and then all the closed circuit feeds that they've got going into this is the number of people that they've got working at this call center. So this is a huge, huge enterprise, okay? And these folks are, like I said, very sophisticated, and they know what they're doing. So one of the reasons that I want to show this to people is because, again, they're often skeptical that this is the way these things work. And so I'm going to show a video real quick that ought to help bring this to light. And one of the things that I use when I do these presentations is I use lots and lots of videos because what they do is they really show people exactly what they're up against. And so this is a guy online. He used to be a NASA engineer. His name's Mark Rober. And he does all kinds of engineering videos on YouTube, and most of them are fun. But he's also gone after some internet scammers over in India, and he's done some things with pranks where he releases things like cockroaches and glitter bombs and things like that in this call center. So anyway, along with some of these, there's what's called good guy hackers out there that will hack into these call centers and disrupt their operations in a way to prevent them from scamming people. And so in working with these folks, what he's done is he's infiltrated some of these scams. Again, these calls are going out all over the world. So while they're not calling the US during these times, they are calling other parts of the world. Again, so as I said before, these are well-functioning machines. They've got scripts that they work from, teams that work with closers and openers. So the closers are the ones that are really good at getting the sale or getting the scam completed, whereas the openers are the ones that build trust and get people to work with them. The opener may be somebody whose English skills are better, or maybe somebody who sounds more trusting. Oftentimes they're female because the scammers have learned that females tend to be trusted more than men. And so, again, this is a well-functioned machine. And so these are not just somebody in their basement calling somebody out of the blue. So when we look at these videos, you can see exactly how much money they're making. And this one call center was making upwards of $18 million a year. They're looking to get $60,000 a day. And, you know, when you're making free phone calls and you've got hundreds of people working, anything that you get is profit at this point. And so most of these people who are working at these call centers are working on commission. They're not actually getting paid a salary. And so, again, this is a sophisticated team of folks out there trying to separate you from your money. So let's talk a little bit about some of the terms that we're going to use as we go forward. And these are going to be helpful to educate your seniors as you teach them about these scams. First of all, phishing is one that most people have probably heard of. It's something that happens with email right now. And it's sending out a message that's purportedly from a reputable company to try and get personal information. Usually this is done for things like identity theft, but they use it for scamming as well. So you may get a phishing scheme that's designed to look like he mentioned in the video there, Amazon. So it might be, you might get an email saying that Amazon tried to deliver a package and they're having trouble. Just log into your account and they can resolve the issue right away. So when you click on that link in your email, instead of going to Amazon, it goes to a website that looks just like Amazon. You may put in some information, including your account password, and then they can then use that money or that information to rip you off. So phishing is where they've designed an email to look like something that's legit, but isn't, in order to either perpetrate identity theft or just a scam in general. Smishing is a relatively new scam that's out there that involves text messaging, and you guys may have started getting these on your phones now. Again, during the pandemic, I got lots of messages like this saying that they were from UPS, FedEx, the post office, saying that they were having trouble delivering things to my address. And of course, we knew back in 2020 when everybody retreated to their homes, people were getting tons of stuff delivered. And so to get a message like that saying that Amazon was having trouble making a delivery might seem legit. And so you might be tempted to click on that text message, thinking that it's going to take you to your Amazon account. And instead, it's a smishing message that's going to take you to a fake website that looks like, either your credit card website or your Amazon website for the purposes of stealing your money. So this might be what one of these text messages looks like. So attention, credit card fraud alert. We need you to sign into your Amex account and verify our purchase was made with your credit card. So just real quick, have you guys ever gotten calls like this? Can you raise your hand or nod? Something. Yeah, so we see lots and lots of calls like this. And so again, this is sorry, I'm trying to bring my screen back up. All right, so this is what a smishing text message might look like. And then caller ID spoofing is the next term that we want to learn about. And it sounds a lot like what you think it is, but this is a video that I often play for seniors to help them understand exactly what it is. And it resonates pretty well. People who are 16 older tend to recall this video, and they tend to recall it fairly fondly. So let me let it go and I'll see what y'all think. Oops, sorry. I just realized, so it doesn't, I can't play from my, sorry, I can't play from my, there we go.
Sort of things like money. How good of you to come and see me. And how pretty you look.
Oh, Red, how you do run on teasing a country girl like me?
Thank heavens you're not in rags. I'm tired of seeing women in rags. Turn around. Oh, you look good enough to eat. And prosperous, too.
Thank you. I've been doing very well.
What brings you to Terra?
You vixen, you. Starlet, I love you. That gown is gorgeous.
Thank you. I saw it in the window and I just couldn't resist it.
I didn't show it to any of the crew.
All right, so like I said, I like showing that video because it gives me a chance. First of all, it tends to come at a point in my presentation where I'm about a third of the way through, and so it breaks things up really well and gives people a good laugh, which is needed during dealing with all this really heavy, serious stuff. But secondly, seniors recognize that video. They identify with it, and they immediately get the concept of what a spoof is. Okay, so a spoof is something that's meant to look like something else for the purposes of tricking you or into making you think that it's this other thing, either for laughs or for parody or satire, bunch of different reasons. But caller ID spoofing specifically is a technology that allows people to change the caller ID, the outgoing number on their phone, to trick the caller ID on the incoming user's end into thinking it's a different number. And so if the call may be coming from, let's say it's coming from India or Jamaica or Nigeria, these are all countries with big problems with telephone scams reaching out to the US. So let's say the call's coming from overseas, they can spoof that number and make it look as though it's coming from, say, Washington, DC. They can make it look like it's coming from the Internal Revenue Service if they want to. And if they want to pretend like they're an IRS agent telling you that you owe back taxes, they can do that in order to trick you into thinking that that you need to make a payment to them. And so I'm going to give you an example of that here real quick. And that's this IRS scheme. Now, the 703 area code there is the Northern Virginia area code. So it's right outside Washington, D.C. So they've spoofed that number into making it look as though it's coming from the Washington, D.C. area.
Karen has her hand raised. You can go ahead, Karen.
Hello, Karen? Hello? Okay, well, so I paused that because you guys get an idea, you have a good idea of what's going on there. So the person's calling, pretending they're from the IRS, and they're going to tell this person that they failed to file their taxes or there was a mistake with their taxes and they owed a penalty. You're going to see a lot of things that are going to be familiar to these, that are going to be common to all these scams. One is They're going to use all this authority to try and scare people. They're going to tell this person that they've committed crimes, that whatever they say during this call is going to be recorded and can be used against them in a court of law, and that this is going to be their testimony, and to be very, very careful. And there's warrants out for your arrest and all kinds of things. If you watch any of these YouTube videos involving the white hat scammers or hackers, you'll sometimes see these scam calls where they'll have sirens in the backgrounds to try and instill a sense of urgency or fear in the person receiving the phone call. And basically what it is, it's the IRS alleging that you owe money, and that in order to pay this fine or to get this warrant resolved, you'll need to pay your back taxes over the phone using a gift card of some sort. Now, first of all, we know this is a scam for a number of reasons. The number one reason being that the IRS will not ever call you out of the blue and tell you that you owe back taxes. Okay, we used to be able to say the IRS will never call you, and that's no longer the case because they have started outsourcing some of their collections work now to private individuals. However, they will not be the first call you ever receive. You will have gotten plenty of letters in the mail first and foremost, letting you know that you've missed a tax payment or that you owe money or something along those lines. Secondly, the IRS does not call you and let you know that you have a warrant out, and the police never call you to let you know you have a warrant. If the police called me and told me that I had a warrant, do you think I'd stick around and wait for them to show up to arrest me? Nobody would, right? The police serve warrants by coming to your house and arresting you. So anytime somebody calls you to tell you that you have a warrant and you can resolve it over the phone, that's a scam. And we always tell people to hang up when that comes out. And then the final thing is they're going to tell you to use a gift card of some sort to make this payment with. And that's another way that we know this is a scam, is the IRS never requires that you make a payment using a gift card, okay? The reason that they use gift cards is because it's much more difficult to reverse the charges on a gift card. And so once you've scratched off the numbers on the back, especially if it's a certain kind of card, the money is gone and it can't be recouped. And so they'll instruct you to drive to Kroger or Walmart or Walgreens or wherever it is you can buy these cards, and to purchase $500 or $1,000 or whatever the amount is they're trying to get from you in iTunes cards or in prepaid debit cards. And the reason, again, for those things is because they cannot be, once you've given them the numbers, the money's gone. So they know they've got their money without fear of it getting, the charges getting reversed. So the IRS scam is one of the common ones that we see. The next most common one that we see out there when it comes to telephone scams are the grandparent scams. And and so what a grandparent scam looks like, and I'll play these real quick for you, is so first of all, this video explains a little bit of how it works. So again, he talked about why they target people over 60, and that's because they're home, they're more available, they may not be as technologically sophisticated, all those reasons that we talked about a minute ago. So one of the reasons that I like showing videos like this is because Hearing one of the criminals recount the scam in their own words is a lot more impactful than having me just sitting up there and talked or describing these videos to the seniors that I work with. In addition, actually playing examples of these videos really drives home the way they work. And so I'm going to play a copy or an example of this grandparent scam right now, and you'll see some common elements at work here. So let's see what this one sounds like. Okay, so again, we've got con artists who are calling people up out of the blue, pretending to be somebody that they're not, and they're using some of the techniques that you will often see, like the old mentalists, like say Donnie Carson, or one of the old con artist tricks that they would use. And so instead of actually providing any information themselves, they start asking sort of pointed questions and say things that are very vague in general, looking for information. And then whatever information you provide, they use that to fill in the gaps. And so when you notice when this guy called, he didn't say, hey, Grandma, this is Randy. All he said was, hi, Grandma. And then let the grandparents or grandmother say, Randy, is that you? And then they said, yeah, it's me, Randy. And then they said, were you hurt bad? He talked about why his jaw and his mouth were hurt, and that's why his voice sounded different. So they've got an answer for everything. And again, they're not providing any information up front. All the information is coming from the person who's getting scammed. They will swear the person to secrecy. And the reason they want to do that is because they don't want the senior to hang up the phone and call Randy's parent or and find out, no, Randy's sitting right here with me. Randy didn't go to Mexico on spring break. Randy wasn't in a car accident. None of those things are happening. To that end, they will often instruct the victims to stay on the phone and while they go to Walmart or Walgreens to purchase these gift cards. And the excuse that they'll give for that is, in the case of, let's say, an IRS scam or a scam involving some sort of criminal warrant, they'll say that it's to prevent you from trying to abscond, that we need you to stay on the phone so that we know you're not trying to escape. If you hang up the phone, we'll send the sheriffs immediately to your location and have you arrested. And so the real reason for that is they don't want you to call and check out and verify that this is a scam. Okay, they know that as soon as you hang up the phone, it's just like with a used car salesperson, right? They know the moment you walk off that car lot that you're not buying a car, so they're going to do everything they can to keep you on that lot. And the same thing goes with these scammers. They know that the minute you hang up the phone, that call's gone and you're not going to fall for this again. So they want to try and keep you on the phone as long as they can and prevent you from verifying any of this information or making sure that that this isn't some sort of trick. So grandparent scam is one of the most common ones we see. Next, we see jury duty or the court summons scam. And this is one that was going around here recently in Louisville because there was a couple of stories on the news about how the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office was having a hard time filling jury pools for criminal cases. And they would send out, 500 summons for jury duty, and only 200 people would show up, right? And so they were having a very difficult time with filling these things and trying to sort out what they were going to do about this. Because this was in the news a lot, we saw a big increase in scammers using this as a way to defraud people. And that's something that we've learned from studying this stuff, is that scammers are very adept at using whatever's currently in the news to target their scams for that time. So during COVID, we saw a huge spike in scams related to Medicare and Medicaid fraud, around COVID vaccines, around COVID testing. We saw scams related to grants for personal protective equipment. We would have people contacted saying that, lots of quack scams. So they've got cures for COVID or a new test that you don't even have to do, don't have to do the swab up your nose or blood work. They can detect whether you have COVID just by taking a picture up with your phone, that kind of stuff. So lots of scams out there around COVID. And that was because, of course, everyone's thinking about COVID. This is the time of year when we see a spike in the IRS scams because it's tax season, correct? The jury duty scam is one that we saw again when their jury duty news stories were out there frequently. And then we'll see ones around the sweepstakes, usually around the Super Bowl, because if you guys recall, that was when the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol used to go around and give out their big sweepstakes every year. It was right around Super Bowl time. They would broadcast it during the Super Bowl back in the 80s, if you remember that. And in fact, that's one of the things that I used when I talk with seniors who, when we talk about the sweepstakes scam, is one of the ways that that you've been, if you think that you may have been scammed about a Publishers Clearinghouse thing, is if you get a letter in the mail saying you've won the Publishers Clearinghouse, it's a scam because they don't send letters out to tell you what they've won. What do they do? And everybody thinks for a second and they're like, oh, yeah, they send Ed McMahon. Well, not Ed McMahon anymore, but they send the prize patrol out, right? A cameraman with balloons and a giant check and confetti and, all that kind of stuff. They make a big deal out of it because they want to film a commercial and they want all that publicity so they can broadcast it during the Super Bowl. And so that's how you know that that's a scam, is they don't send letters telling you you've won, ever. And then the final scam that I always want to warn people about, because this happens once people have been scammed the first time, is their number will then get passed along will then get sold to other con artists who will know that that's a good number for somebody who's A, gullible, likely to fall for a scam, and B, it's a good working number, period. But also, if they've been scammed in the past, they might sell the information about how much was taken and what scheme was used. And then the person will get called again from someone claiming to be one of these asset recovery companies. And the way the asset recovery scam works is they will reach out to you a couple of months after you've been scammed and say, this is Paul Troy with the Asset Recovery Corporation. We understand that you were recently fell victim to a scam involving IRS payments in the amount of $1,500. And we can help you recover that money for a fee. And of course, that fee is going to be, 10% or whatever. And you think, okay, well, I pay $150, I'm going to get $1,500 back. That seems like a good deal. And instead, you're going to get scammed all over again. And so we always talk to people about this so that they don't become victims a second time, because it really seems very insidious to me that, not only would they scam people one time, then they'd come back and try and take advantage of them a second time in the hopes that they would get their money back. So again, this is a big business. Sorry. So how do they work? How does this stuff work in terms of payment? We've talked about the gift card thing and how they're going to encourage the senior to go to to Kroger, to Walmart, to Walgreens, wherever, and purchase iTunes cards. And by and large, it's iTunes cards, or it's what's called a green dot card, or it's a prepaid Visa or MasterCard, a prepaid debit card, okay? And the reason that they want these particular kinds of cards is the charges can't be reversed on them as easily. And iTunes cards are the most easily resold on the internet. And so if they get you to go buy a $100 iTunes card and give them the numbers off the back of it, allegedly to pay your IRS back taxes, they can then resell that $100 worth of iTunes stuff for $50 cash and make money off of it. And so because iTunes is the most popular one out there, it's the one that they all want. But it's by no means the only one. What I always do, though, when I do one of these talks is I'll put this picture up on the screen and I'll ask the seniors out there, how many of y'all know what you can purchase with an iTunes card? and I get a lot of blank looks. And sometimes one or two people will know. They'll say music, they'll have an idea that it's like music or games and stuff like that. But for the most part, people aren't really sure what you buy with an iTunes card. And I'll point out, it says right there on the card exactly what you can purchase with it. It's apps, games, music, movies, TV shows, books, and more. Okay. Now, more does not include taxes. More does not include paying your fine for missing jury duty. And more does not include any sort of fee that might be required to cover your Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes winning. Okay. More, again, are things like books, games, movies, apps, those kinds of things, internet stuff. So most seniors don't even know what iTunes cards are for. They don't have a clue. They know that it's something that their grandkids may have asked for one time, but for the most part, they don't know what they're used for. And that's part of the reason that these scammers it's one of the things that scammers will also take advantage of is they'll take advantage of the seniors' uncertainty and what they're used for. So again, show seniors what these things look like. Put pictures up there on the screen, get examples of them, and show them exactly where it says what they can use to purchase with these cards. Because seeing is believing. Seeing a video involving a scammer talk about their scheme is a lot easier to believe than hearing me talk about it. Seeing what one of these cards looks like, they've probably been down that gift card aisle 100 times in their life and never noticed these cards. But now they'll notice them, and they'll know to stay away from those cards next time somebody calls them saying that they owe back taxes. Another common payment method that we're seeing more of nowadays are these Bitcoin kiosks. And Bitcoin is what's called the cryptocurrency. I had to take a crash course in cryptocurrencies, and I'm still not exactly sure I understand exactly how they work, but essentially it's made up money. And it's made up money that we've all agreed upon means something. And it's on the internet, and you can put real money into it and it's worth stuff. And because Bitcoin has gotten a lot of publicity recently, and the Federal Reserve Board has talked about regulating the Bitcoin economy, it's in the news quite a bit. And so again, this is one of those things that scammers will take advantage of. Seniors may have seen one of these kiosks at their local convenience store or at a Walmart or Walgreens. And they may get instructions from a scammer to go to one of these kiosks. They'll know exactly where one is and tell them to deposit using their debit card or credit card to deposit money directly into somebody's Bitcoin account, allegedly to pay taxes. Again, you can't pay taxes with Bitcoin. You can't pay your fees for your Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes with Bitcoin. But because these things are not particularly well known, it's important to show seniors what they are so that they can be aware of them and pay attention, as opposed to just telling, saying Bitcoin and cryptocurrency just sounds like a lot of words, but actually seeing this picture, knowing what a kiosk looks like, knowing this is something to avoid if a scammer's telling you to use it, it's going to have a lot more of an impact than just trying to explain it. All right, now the next big scam that we see besides phone scams are internet scams. And this involves seniors who are on the internet who may get one of these blue screens that pop up. They may be surfing along and they go to an unfamiliar website. And within a few seconds of clicking on that website, this thing will appear. And it looks like what developers will sometimes call the blue screen of death. It means that you've hit some sort of critical error with your Microsoft system, and you need to reach out to Microsoft, to a technician to get something resolved. This is a real thing. It really does happen. Does not happen very often, though. And the blue screen of death will not tell you to not restart your computer, okay? It's okay to restart your computer if something like this happens. In fact, that's what they tell you to do, is to restart your computer. But instead, what will end up happening is you'll get this screen and that pop-up saying that Windows has detected a security breach, and they're going to ask you to call this toll-free number, or they may offer a link for you to click on. And if you click on that link or call that number, you're going to be taken not to Microsoft or not to Google or whatever, Norton antivirus or whoever this is alleging to be from. It's not going to go to them. It's going to go to a scammer, and they're going to ask for permission to log into your machine. And allegedly to repair whatever the security breach is on your machine. And, this happens. The organization that I work for, we have an IT department that we resource out through a private company. And when we need IT support, they'll log into our screens remotely, and they'll fix whatever needs to be done from their office. I'm not even sure where. So, this is a real thing. However, the person that's on the other end of this call is not with Microsoft, but they're a scammer. And instead of fixing whatever security breach is on there, they're installing security breaches on the person's computer. More than likely, they're installing a keystroke logger, which will allow them to then monitor whatever keystrokes are being entered into the computer. And that way they can keep track of passwords. They can keep track of what websites you go to. If you know somebody's email password, you probably have access to their banking information, their bill paying information, lots of information for identity theft, lots of information for financial abuse and fraud. So we always recommend, if somebody gets one of these screens unexpectedly, to turn off their computer, disconnect it from the internet, and then turn it back on and see if the problem persists. If it does, then to take it in to a certified technician at some place they trust, a place like Best Buy, a real brick and mortar store, and not somebody that they reach out to online. Take their computer in and have it looked at, or better yet, have somebody that they know who understands computers come and look at it for them. So if it's, if it's their child or their grandchild, maybe they can come and take a look at it and see if it's something they need to be aware of or not. But letting seniors know what this looks like, so that if it does ever show up, they're not going to panic. They're not going to fall into that sense of urgency that the scammer's trying to instill in them, and they're going to be calm and collected and go about resolving this. And then finally, social media. The rise of social media has been a great way for seniors to stay connected to one another, to stay connected to their family members, and to stay connected to their friends. But it's also given scammers a new avenue to reach out to seniors. So our friend Kaylee Brown there, who's on the verge of a wardrobe malfunction, and that's probably by design, because Kaylee's probably going to be sending that friend request out to men on Facebook, probably men that are single and older, who might think that Kaylee just might like them and might want to be involved in a relationship with them. Kaylee's going to set the older man who accepts her friend request up for a romance scam. In other words, Kaylee's going to want to start a relationship with you. Kaylee wants to come and meet you, but Kaylee can't afford airfare. Kaylee just needs a plane ticket, and it's $1,500 to fly out from California. But if we could get together, I know we get on famously. We like all the same things. You know why Kaylee knows what you like? Because Kaylee's been on your profile and it's seen that you're a big fan of The Walking Dead, and that you like Star Wars movies, and that you once went to high school in Indiana. Kaylee knows all this stuff about you, and surprise, Kaylee has all the same interests that you have, and maybe some of the same history you have. So again, social media, while it can be a great way to interact with people, can be a new avenue for scams, and we always want to make people aware of this. Talk to people about not accepting friend requests from people that they're already friends with, and how that can be used to then spoof that person's profile. And then they may reach out to you down the road and ask for help with, maybe they forgot it's, that you might get an urgent message saying, I forgot it's my son's birthday today, and I'm out of cash right now. Can you purchase a gift card and send me the number so I can get him something? And so you may do it for your friend. She's good for it. You purchase this gift card, you send them the numbers, and instead of it being your friend, it's the scammer who spoofs their profile. So making sure seniors are aware that these folks are out there and they're looking to prey on them is a really important way of helping them protect themselves. So when it comes to prevention, and I want to finish up so I can give you all a chance to ask any questions. The big takeaway from that is to tell seniors to slow down. Don't let scammers create a sense of urgency. Don't let them bypass your better instincts. Ask questions and don't get rushed into a bad situation. Again, scammers are going to use that sense of urgency, that adrenaline, that lack of critical thinking skills to take advantage of you. You want to make sure that you don't allow that to happen. So I'm going to take a break or a pause real quick here and then see if anybody has any questions or comments, or if anybody's got any calls like this, any information that they'd like to share. Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for being here today. My information is, and I'm going to pull it up here real quick. Sorry. All right, so my information is Paul Troy, and there's my phone number and email address. If you want to reach out to me, you can. I can give you copies of the slides, or if you're looking for other resources to use in presentations, or when you reach out to the seniors, if you're doing scam talks with them, if you want more resources, you can always reach out to me for that kind of stuff. But I thank you for coming today, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.